This video presentation is brought to you by IData Incorporated, providing technology consulting for higher education. Visit us on the web at idatainc.com.
Topic 2. Development methodology for Banner mobile web forms. The technology used in creating a mobile web form for the Banner system is fairly straightforward and easy. For our project, the forms were all created as custom self-service Banner forms. Self-service Banner, or SSB, is actually implemented as packages within the Oracle database, which serve up web forms via the Oracle Web Agent, or OWA. There were a couple of minor tweaks that we needed to make to the underlying self-service Banner infrastructure to allow access by mobile technologies, but those tweaks were fairly minor in nature. Mobile web forms use XHTML instead of HTML. XHTML is essentially an implementation of HTML within XML and is supported on most mobile devices. Throughout the project, a variety of different cell phone simulators were used to design and test the forms. We found that actually using simulators allowed us to test the forms on a desktop instead of using individual cell phones. The reason for using different cell phone simulators is that the forms will look different on different cell phones, as demonstrated in this slide. Keep that in mind as you're designing the forms, and don't pay too much attention to the actual look and feel of the individual elements such as drop-down boxes, since those will look completely different depending on the cell phone that the user is using. A couple of different points should be considered when you're actually designing a form for a mobile access. The first consideration is to keep the form simple. The smaller and simpler the form, the easier it is for the users to access, view, and use the forms on their mobile device. When you're designing mobile forms for the Banner system, you want to try to leverage all the existing SSB framework and Banner APIs. This has multiple benefits, including reducing the amount of time needed for development of the system, plus avoiding reinventing the wheel. Because of the rapid change in technologies, you want to try to separate the user interface from the business logic using an approach similar to a model view controller. In the model view controller approach, the user interface logic is all stored in one area of the system, the business logic is stored in one area, and accessing the database is stored in a separate area. That way, if the user interface technology changes, you can swap out that component or rework that component without touching the business logic. And finally, you want to try to build using modular, reusable components. This means that the first couple of forms that you build might actually take some time in developing those components, but once those components are built, they can be reused in all the later forms. This saves development time in the long run. The World Wide Web Consortium on their website has a set of best practices specifically for designing web forms for mobile devices. We found these best practices to be very helpful in our project. Some of those include following the web standards. You want to make sure that you validate each of your web forms to make sure that they are following the standards. And W3C provides a validation tool on their website that you can use to do this. You also want to consider your audience and keep the pages small, simple, and clear. This makes them easy to view and use from a mobile device. When you're designing the forms, you want to avoid pop-ups and frames, and also don't rely on cookies, since those are not supported on most mobile devices. When you're designing your forms, also don't rely on tables, fonts, or style sheets for the page layout, since those elements will look different on different devices. You want to try to reduce the bandwidth and limit your page size and the data that's flowing back and forth from the cell phone to the internet. Cell phones have a limited bandwidth, and users typically pay for bandwidth usage, so smaller forms work better in that situation. And finally, you want to minimize user keystrokes and make the forms easier to use. You can do this by creating drop-down boxes and also defaulting values into some of the fields. For more information on our development methodology, you can download our detailed white paper available from the Extras section of our IData website.
This concludes Part 3 of 4 of the IData Banner Mobile Access video presentation. Thank you for watching. IData can help you on a similar project or any innovative development project that your institution might need. For contact information, visit our website at www.idatainc.com.